Come with us inside the shop of the quickest motorcycle racer in Australia, Chris Matheson. He has an unbelievable collection of motorcycles. He developed his own top fuel motor, and Chris Matheson has an unbelievable tale of survival. Let's head to Brisbane to see this amazing facility. Top Fuel motorcycle fans, we got a real treat for you. We're going to go inside the shop of the Australian superstar, the one and only Chris Matheson. He is the rider of Nitro Voodoo. There he is, Chris. How you doing? All the way from Brisbane, Australia. I can't wait to see your shop. This place looks awesome.
Welcome to my shop.
They say Nitro is not your friend. Chris Matheson, you know that all too well. You had a very scary incident. Thank goodness you were still here.
Yep. And
your safety gear did its job. But taking a look, it looks like the leathers and the boots took a real pounding, huh?
Yeah, particularly the leathers you can see up there, they've gone through. But, you know, bearing in mind, that was 237 mile an hour when I came off.
Let's take you back to this terrifying high-speed crash. It's amazing Chris was able to come back after this.
Front wheel doesn't touch down. Oh no, big problems for Chris Matheson. That's nasty.
Oh my goodness, off the bike and tumbling like a rag doll down.
I tumbled quite a bit. So I tore them up pretty bad. That was the boots.
Oh my goodness.
Came away pretty much unscathed, but yeah, they did their job.
It looks like the boots held up remarkably well for 237 miles an hour. Wow.
Yeah, I don't think my feet hit the ground. It was more so. Whoops! It actually pulled my sleeves up was the worst thing, and you know when I was tumbling and it tore my gloves off and peeled a bit of skin off, and I got a hole through my shoulder blade, which was a pretty nasty. Took a long time to heal because I'd shattered all my foot and broke my ribs and a few heart operations later because you know the tumbling bruised my heart pretty badly. But anyway, they did their job and
did their job indeed. Terrifying.
The bike takes off. It's got no means of slowing down other than just the compression of the engine. And Chris,
wow, thank goodness. Was there ever a part of you that said, "I'm done. I'm quitting. I'm out of here. This is too crazy"?
No.
You knew right away you were coming back.
Yeah, well, from hospital in Sydney, because they took me to ECU in Sydney, I was trying to get on to Larry to get some more bits because I knew we'd beat the bike up pretty bad. And yeah, so we got straight back in to rebuilding the bike. It took me about, you know, I was beat up for about 4 or 5 months, so I was out of action. And then once I could get mobile again, you know, we got in and repaired the bike and got back on the horse. That was in March 2013, and we were back racing at the same track, first race back, same lane, back in November that year. And still had all my screws and plates and everything.
he's up on his knees.
Wow, that is a tough racer. That is incredible to see him. I reckon he would be fairly shaken up. Where did the bike end up? It kept going up past the sand trap, up over the... Oh, that is a long way up, and that is in a very sad state of affairs.
It's mind-boggling that Chris and his team were able to rebuild this motorcycle so quickly. So you had no fear that this could happen again? You knew what had happened and were confident that it was corrected?
Yeah, knew what had happened, and yeah, I think the minute you get too much fear, like, you know, I've always got fear, but just enough to make sure that I'm wary of it, because it's like a big cobra snake, that bike. It'll bite you the minute you turn your back on it. So,
that's right.
Yeah, we got back on it and got back into it, and away we went again.
Well said. Well, I'm glad you're okay, and I'm glad this safety gear up here did its job. As the old cliche goes, Nitro is not your friend. We're looking at some Top Fuel motorcycle carnage. Take a look at this, and please share this with a motorcycle friend that may have never seen a piston look quite like this. Are you kidding me? Chris Matheson, you got to tell me about these parts. This is wild.
These are some old damaged pistons and a conrod from our early days where we were probably a little bit off the tune at a couple of events.
Just a little off the tune. That's all it takes, right?
It had a little bit of a knock in it, but this one here I remember, and that's why I kept it. We were in a final some years ago, and it started chewing itself up probably at about 400 or 500 feet, and I had another guy on the other lane that was breathing down my back, so I stayed on full noise, and I could feel it through the handlebars shaking and just smashing itself to pieces, and that's sort of the end result of what it did to the piston. And typically, you know, there's another one that's given up the ghost.
There may have been some parts sacrificed on this run, but it was good enough to get the win.
So that's actually, that one there's the oil pressure gauge that was on the bike when it crashed at 237 mile an hour and went into basically a solid wall at the end of the track. The bike kept going, and you can see there it stopped on the oil pressure at the time.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Yeah, they can be nasty. That's what they should look like, more or less.
There we go. There's one that's unscathed, and then there's one that has seen better days.
Yeah, that one's no warranty on any of this stuff. Yeah.
How many pistons do you think you've destroyed in your relatively short career here? What are we going on, about a decade of top fuel motorcycle racing?
Yeah, it'll be 10 years this year. Yeah, I'd hate to think my bank manager might be watching, so I won't say.
All right, we'll just leave it at that, and we'll let you enjoy this image one more time, guys. How crazy is that? Take a look at all these wild plastic parts. A lot of technology, a lot of R&D here. Chris, I know everybody's talking about that plenum you developed in the top fuel motorcycle world. It's a big deal. Yeah. Tell me how it came to be.
Well, we actually invested in a 3D printer because a lot of the custom parts we've been making, you know, changing bits and pieces. If you do them out of billet aluminium and use a CNC machine, it's an expensive exercise, and often with, you know, unique parts that have got some peculiar bends in them, you do it once and you really only want to do it once. So we got the 3D printer and started making things out of plastic. Then we'd fit them to the bike, and if they were perfect, we'd turn on the CNC and do them once and once only.
There you can see the plenum and the motor that Chris Matheson developed back in the pit area, getting ready to fire it up. The monitor when you're talking about one of the world's quickest motorcycles.
And the plenum, which was quite an intricate piece of work, you can see we've had to make that in two pieces. Obviously, the printer we've got's only that big, so the plenum's that big. So that was one that we did a prototype on the 3D printer, and then we then turned on the CNC machine and made a billet one out of it. But quite complicated, and you know, pick up wheel off the crankshaft. We looked at a coil ignition instead of not running a ProMag 44, and that was an adapter as part of the drive. You know, another bracket. This held the neck of the supercharger. You can see there's quite a few intricate parts of that to make it work.
So you're using innovation here. You're developing your own parts and not necessarily following the cookie cutter formula that others have. You're not really copying anything. You're developing your own.
Yeah, well, we're a little bit isolated down here from the I guess the bike world, but you know, the four wheelers are still doing things. But you know, obviously it's very difficult to buy anything for these bikes, so you've pretty much got to make it. And if you're going to go to the trouble of making it, they're all one-off, so we try and minimise the cost as much as we can, and the 3D printer's been a helpful tool.
Excellent. And how cool is this right here? Kawasaki fans will recognize that. You got it all.
Yeah, that's a Z900, as you guys call them. We call them Z9s.
Z9, okay.
Z9s.
I heard Z over here a couple times in Australia. I was wondering what the heck they were talking about.
So we've actually got virtually our whole bike in AutoCAD on the computer, and we can show the whole motor running with the valve lash and everything. It's quite a useful tool. It takes a lot, obviously, to load it in, but we can sort of do quite a bit with it. And that was one that we ran off just as a sample, so it's exactly as an original head.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Motorcycle drag racing fans, here's a bit of trivia. Who recognizes this Nitro Harley? If you can recite the history of this bike, you must really be in the know, because it does have a different look, but this is the motorcycle that the great Doug Vansel rode to about 10 IHRA championships on. This was when Doug took a hiatus, stepped away from the sport. Of course, now he's back on a new bike, but this was the one that he really carved out his reputation as one of the best in the world. And now it is in the shop of Chris Matheson all the way over here in Australia. Chris, how did this come to be?
Well, it's a bit of a long story, but in a nutshell, we were going to build our own Harley motors over here, and I spoke to Larry about finding out what the ratio should be for our gearbox and drives and pulleys, etc. And anyway, Larry put me on to Doug, and the rest is history. We ended up with the bike. And
there's the great Doug Vansel in action on that bike.
We ran it for the back half of one of the seasons here in Australia a few years ago, and we've sort of, it's been parked up since because we've been too busy with the Voodoo bike, but
it's a piece of history. I know that you said when Dougie sold you this bike, he was probably even a little emotional because it meant so much to him, huh?
Yeah, both him and Julie, his partner, were torn a bit about getting rid of it, and I can remember when I went to America to pick it up, we spent a week with Doug and Julie, and then went over the bike, and you know, they were both pretty emotional about it, because a lot of their life was in the bike. So I was fortunate, you know, to be able to become the caretaker of it since. So yeah, it's a special bike. It
really is a special bike. We've watched Dougie win a lot of races on this machine back in the HDRA days, back in the IHRA days as well, back when the Nitro Harleys used to run with IHRA. Wow. There's another Doug Vansel flashback, and of course Doug Vansel is now back in competition. Really cool machine. What are your future plans for this, Chris? Do you have any plans? I know you're so busy right now with the Nitro Voodoo 4-cylinder bike. Do you have any plans to get back to it?
We'd like to go over with the Voodoo bike and run a season in Larry's backyard.
Oh, that would be cool.
That's what we'd like to do, and while we're doing that over there, at the same time, we'd like to bring this out and run this and get some records and win some championships in Australia with this. This one's very unique in the sense that it's got an inboard clutch, which I think had a lot to do with its success and its consistency. So it was an attraction to us because it's same clutch gearbox setup as the Voodoo bike. So the only difference is it's a twin, and it's got some pretty major different characteristics riding it. Trying to keep the revs down around sort of 4,500, whereas the 4-cylinder bikes, you know, happy to go 9,000, 10,000 if you need to, sort of thing.
How would you compare the ride, if there's any comparison at all, between Top Fuel Harley and a Top Fuel inline 4-cylinder bike?
The Hog's certainly rough and rattly, but once you get out of the hole and get going, they smooth down and become quite an enjoyable ride. We found when Graham and I ran it for that half season, we ended up second in the championship with it, but it was a smooth ride, and the maintenance on it was a lot less than what it was on the 4-cylinder, so yeah, it was enjoyable.
Piece of history. Nitro Harley of Doug Vansel that now belongs to Chris Matheson. Everything in this shop, even a NASCAR up on the lift. Chris, you have it all. What is the story with this?
Well, the NASCARs came to Australia in sort of around the late 90s, 2000, and they ran with the main series over here, which is Australian V8 supercars. And to be honest, they were more popular than the supercars. They were louder, they had more crashes, the brakes used to fade, and they had plenty of power, so they were a real crowd favourite. So they ended up, after about 3 seasons, they stopped the series because it was taking the shine away from the supercars. So they ended up all getting parked up. There's about 35 or 40 of them in Australia, and I came across 2 of them, which were obviously American cars that had come out here for one of the teams, and we converted one to a land speed salt car.
Oh wow!
And the other ones sat up there on the hoist gathering dust.
Conversation piece.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? Do you have any plans?
Oh, a bit busy.
Yeah, you're a busy man right now, but it definitely looks cool. Yeah. I've never walked into a motorcycle shop before and saw a NASCAR up on the lift.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm sure it's a lot of fun to get behind the wheel, huh?
Yeah, well, the other one we ran on the salt, we ran actually in Bonneville and Lake Gedney in Australia as well. It was, they're a fun thing. You know, they're just reliable, fast, and you know, you're doing a couple 100 mile an hour on the salt. I know it's not fast compared to the bikes, but in those old things, a couple 100 mile an hour on the salt's an achievement in itself.
Oh yeah, let's take a look at this again. Can you believe it, guys? That's a heck of a conversation piece up on the lift in your shop. Very cool. One-of-a-kind motor right here. This is the Nitro Voodoo top fuel motorcycle. Chris, I've heard so much about this, and I know even Larry McBride sent you a big shout out, said Chris developed his own motor. It's amazing what you've done, the time you put into this, the effort, the money, everything. How did this all come to be?
Well, bit of a long story, but basically we were running the earlier version motors when we bought the bike, which were a cast alloy. We had a few problems with them, and then eventually we started running down on parts, and we thought, well, the only way we're going to go forward and be serious about this is to develop our own engine. So it certainly hasn't just been me. There's been a few people involved in this, one in particular, Philip O'Brien from Performance Wholesale. They've had a big hand in this, and we made 5 of them thinking, well, you know, we're going to need 5. The first season we ran them, we did 66 passes, and the leak downs and everything were the same as they were when we built it. So we thought we're on a winner here, because there was a number of bonus benefits from it. In particular, the turnaround time on servicing. We weren't doing sort of valve lashes or cams every pass. The reliability started to come into them, and we've designed our own cranks, had them made in the States by Sonny Bryant, and we've beefed up everything. One of the plans for the motor was to go to high gear only, so we've put a lot bigger, stronger crank in it, changed a lot of things in there to give it a bit of reliability.
Do you feel like it has some pretty marked advantages over what's being used by the other teams?
Well, I think the big thing that we see is the turnaround time. You know, they're very strict on getting back out for the scheduled runs. So, you know, we do normally 3 runs on the oil. We literally only change the plugs. We don't need to check the shims in them or the valve lash. So we find that saves quite a bit of time. You can spend a bit more time on tune-up for the next run. But we haven't really gone anywhere near the potential of the engines. We're still, you know, trying to get down the track as everyone is, but I think there's a lot more at the moment. You know, we're only running sort of 30-odd pound of boost. It would take double that easily.
Wow.
The motors are really strong.
As you continue to find success, if others want it, are you going to be set up to produce these, or is it going to be something that you're just going to keep for your race team?
Yeah, at this stage we're just keeping for ourselves. You know, one day when I'm too old to do it, you know, we'll consider what we do with the motors. But you know, that's in the future.
Excellent. What's been some of the feedback from some of the other top fuel motorcycle racers out there about what you've created?
I think no feedback's a sign that it doesn't sit well. You know, we're always first back out, or nearly always the first one back out, and that's because of the reliability of the engines. So our turnaround time is critical. We like to go racing, you know, to enjoy ourselves. We don't really like doing a whole lot of work when we go racing. All the work we do is here in the shop.
Sure.
So like anyone we go racing to go racing.
On his own.
Doesn't always work
He
that
decided
way.
Let's see that amazing motor in action. $673 Matheson. How about the name Nitro Voodoo? Where does that come from?
That goes back a few years. When we started, you know, there was a lot of talk about people concerned about black cats and voodoo and whatnot, you know, the colour green, all those sort of superstitious things, don't walk under a ladder. So we thought, well, let's go against the grain and get the voodoo name involved into the bike. So that's pretty much how it came about.
How much time has it taken to develop it from start to finish?
Well, there's probably 6 years of running the old engine program and learning a lot from that, and then I actually got electrocuted at a meeting. We blew a plug out and we run a ProMag 44 ignition system. So I got a spark plug in the chest, and that put me in hospital. And then anyway, next day we drove home. We lost the meeting. We top qualified but lost the meeting. So my crew chief Graham Turner and I were driving back from Darwin, which is literally like driving across America, east to west. And on the way back, I said to Graham, I said, we just got to, you know, start again with these motors, go to a billet motor, design stronger heads, you know, get better cranks and work our way through the bike and improve everything, make it stronger and tougher and more.
Go back to 7 on the
Always a work in progress with this amazing motor program.
And that was probably, it took us about 6 months to actually build the first motor, and then we've been running them, you know, ever since.
Well, you have done it. Congratulations. I know in the NHRA there's a lot of talk about teams maybe trying to develop their own motor, new motors, and the number that people have thrown around is $750,000 to $1 million. Do you think that is high, low?
Sounds a lot to me.
It sounds a lot. Okay, so you were able to do it for much less.
Oh yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I wouldn't be throwing, you know, I'd give the money to the homeless before I spend $1 million on an engine.
Excellent. So you were able to do it at an affordable rate with, you know, your skills and your resources and the people that you had helping you?
Yeah, a lot of people helped us, and you know, we looked at the engine on the basis, well, you know, we need to make enough, which we made 5 at the time, and we thought, well, that'll be plenty. If we can't get one to stay in the bike, you know, for the season, we've done something wrong. And as it turns out, I think I mentioned that year 1 we did sort of 60, 70 passes on the motor. Leak downs were the same as what they were almost at the end of the season, so they saved us a lot. You know, in a year we'd have done a dozen engines, so it paid for itself in the first season, and we won the championship with it. We've since won a couple more championships with these engines. So
truly beautiful.
They've been good.
Good is an understatement. Great. 6 championships and a 603.
We're not leaning on them at all, and that's why they're lasting, because we're not wringing its neck, so to speak.
Excellent. That's a beautiful engine, guys. Keep your eye on it. Hey, we're bench racing around here. We got to get the talented team involved. We're talking about everything. We're talking about this new engine. What do you think about this engine that Chris Matheson developed over here?
Well, we started from fresh from the old one and improved all the weak points on it.
There's a lot of weak areas in it, a lot of valve train problems, a lot of valve problems, timing change and the crank, a lot of crank problems.
Sure.
And then there was a lot of problems with the drive on it, the pulleys and things, so we just virtually started at one end and went right through and strengthened it all, got rid of all the weak spots and just cut down the maintenance and made it a lot more reliable.
Well, good for you because you've done it. How about you? What's your impression of this new motor?
It's good, but I didn't race with the old one, so I only started with a Harley. So yeah, I haven't really.
Here's the biggest question I have for you guys. What's it like? Give people a day in the life of being on a Top Fuel motorcycle team. What is that experience like? How would you describe it? If you think it's 8-hour-a-day work, you are mistaken, because on race day it could be 12 to 16-hour-a-day work, and it takes a whole lot of talent and skill. It's grueling, but it's a labor of love.
It's pretty busy, a lot of hard work, yeah, and then sometimes a lot of waiting, but it's enjoyable. Yeah, I like the racing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And how would you describe, as crew chief, your duties and how much work it is to get one of these Top Fuel motorcycles through a weekend?
Yeah, probably the biggest problem here is our tracks, the traction at the track. That's our killer. We're fighting that, getting the power to the track. We've got too much power for the tracks here, and trying to judge the power for the traction. And that's probably the biggest problem.
Well, I'm sure it keeps you busy here in the shop, doesn't it?
Yeah. There was plenty to do.
There you go.
It keeps us on our toes, and weather and tracks, and there's so many to get a perfect run. There's so many things got to go right.
That's right. I agree. Well, before I leave you, we got to see a tattoo one more time. Let's see your tattoo one more time. This is you want to talk about passion for his Top Fuel team? There it is, guys. Nitro Voodoo. Love it. Thank you so much. And you only have one, right? You don't have one on the other leg, right?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let's see what we got on this leg.
Well, it depends whether we're racing the 4-cylinder Nitro Voodoo or whether we're running the Harley.
Oh, so if you're running the Harley, there it is. We got the jackhammer. You're the man. Thank you so much. If you thought we were done, no, we're just getting started. We even have a vintage Kawasaki. Check it out, guys. This one, pretty much all original. Z1R 1000, Z1R2, right? Beautiful bike. What year is this, Chris?
It's about an 80. Z1R, we call them Zs over here. Z1R Mark II. The first model was a sort of a minky silver, which was a Mark I. It came out, I think it was 79, I think they came out, and they had a narrower fuel tank on them. But basically the same bike. The 79s had a round rocker cover, and this is very similar to the blown fuel bikes. This is really the origins of where all that stuff started in the 70s.
It's a piece of history. Did you have a street bike like this when you were a kid?
Yeah, I actually had one of these, but we cut the back out of it and turned it into a cantilever because we'd spotted a YZ motocross bike at a local track, and I had the model before this, so we took it home and decided to turn it into a cantilever bike, and we put twin shocks under the tank and clip-on bars down on the forks, and became boy racers.
Very cool. This is awesome. This thing it's got to be all original except for the muffler, right?
Yeah, the pipe's the only thing that's pretty much not original. It's had a repaint. It's missing a couple of. They originally came out with a red and gold stripe, thin pinstripe around the bodywork, but other than that's actually the original old shocks on it, front and back. Bit of a classic, really comfortable bike to ride. Late when I left school in the late 70s, if you had one of these, you were quicker than the local constabulary.
It's awesome and it's clean.
Just a nice bike. Yeah. We had a very famous movie out here.
Taking a look at some more of the damage when Chris sustained that 237-mile-an-hour crash. Take a look at the wheel. Wow. That's pretty incredible, Chris.
Yeah, that was. I got blown off and the bike kept going at well over 200 mile an hour. So the end of the track in Sydney is basically a big earth wall. So the bike hit that, went straight through the sand trap, through the safety nets, and then hit the wall at well over 200 mile an hour. So that's really a good testament to a good strong wheel. It didn't do that much damage, really.
All right, here we go. A pair of Suzuki Hayabusas. I did hear of one Top Fuel motorcycle racer going from a Hayabusa to a Nitro bike. That was Jimmy Brantley. I now know that there are two, because Chris Matheson, let me get this straight. You're telling me your only drag racing experience was on these Suzuki Hayabusas, and you jumped all the way to Top Fuel. How in the heck did you do that?
We didn't have a choice. You sort of just had to do it, type of thing. But yeah, I bought this a few years ago, and we put nitrous on it, did quite a bit to the motor, and then ultimately we ended up running it on the salt for land speed racing.
How fast did you go on the salt?
We didn't have much success on the salt. We had a bit of trouble with it, to be honest with you. We could never get it to really run that well. And I think the best we did was 190 mile an hour at the time.
Wow.
And then the other one in the back, that was a brand new bike that had been crashed, and I bought it and lowered it and used to go out and do a bit of practice at the local, actually where we are today at Willowbank. Wow. Used to go out there on Wednesday nights and play around, and street meets on the weekends on Saturdays.
That's where I'm at right now, just having a blast. I love it. I took mine out to my local track. I got 25 passes.
Yeah, nice.
On one day. I thought that I wouldn't have a clutch left, but I did, surprisingly.
Yeah.
A lot of fun, huh?
Yeah, good bike. Yeah, great bike.
Awesome, man. Let's take a look at it. This is how the great Chris Matheson got his start. The Suzuki Hayabusa. So here is one of the crown jewels of the Chris Matheson collection. Americans are probably scratching their head right now saying, what the heck is this? Please describe this to me, Chris. What are we looking at?
This bike here is a Honda 1100R. They were a limited edition, basically a race bike that was brought out by the factory in 1980. They're a handmade 23 litre aluminium tank. In their era, back in 1980, they were a very special bike.
How many do you think are around?
Well, originally they brought out 80, and I reckon in Australia there's a very small handful that are left, particularly original ones. Most of them were crashed, when they came out, because the dealers bought them. The public couldn't buy them at the time. You had to be one of the local dealerships to get a hold of them, and they really bought out just for racing in Australia. So they did things like the Castrol 6 Hours and a number of events like that. So
were they even available in the United States?
I'm not sure, Jack, to be honest with you.
I have not seen one, I'll tell you that.
They had
not like this.
They had two other models, both that had fairings on the front of them, which in my opinion were uglier. These were pretty raw, and they're just a beautiful bike to ride. I've had this since the early 80s. Yeah, so it's an old bike, original bike.
Another classic. A truly unique motorcycle from Honda. If you know anything about it, let us know in the comments.
Great bike from Honda, and lovely to ride. They went really well for their time, and they were pretty much brought out to combat the Katanas back in that era, Suzuki Katanas.
An amazing rider here, Jimmy the Hawk Brantley with Larry and Steve McBride. He was the original owner of Chris's bike. All right, Chris, so not everybody knows the story that you bought your first Top Fuel motorcycle off of Jimmy the Hawk Brantley, who was the second man ever in the 5-second zone. When Jimmy had to step away and concentrate on his business, he looked for a buyer. You stepped up, bought this bike, and we still have original bodywork from the Hawks machine. That's pretty cool.
Second man ever to go under 6 seconds on a Top Fuel bike. He did that in qualifying. Now he's getting ready for the semifinal. There's more.
It's a historic and iconic, famous motorcycle, and the media and magazines paid plenty of attention when Jimmy the Hawk Brantley decided to get with Larry Spider-Man McBride and bring the bike over to Australia. What a truly remarkable transaction.
Yeah, well, when we bought the bike, you know, it's obviously a special bike and a bit of history. So we pulled the body off it and saved the original body parts, the original colours and everything, and then replicated those and then rebranded the bike as Nitro Voodoo and then wrapped it and sort of did our own thing. But we've always kept the body parts. And
very cool. And I see a very special body part here. Oh my goodness, we were just talking about Dougie Vansel's bike moments ago. This one will bring back some memories. Wow. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's the original. Same thing. We did the same when we bought the Hog. We pulled all the original body parts and colours and wheelie bars with all the decals and just set them aside because, again, it's a piece of history.
No doubt a piece of history. That's beautiful. Chris, we're talking about the tenacity and courage it takes to be a top fuel motorcycle racer and how you have to have that machine full throttle for everything to work. And you were just telling me moments ago off camera, I said we got to talk about on camera, the anticipation and the anxiety when the tree's coming down. Tell me about when that second to last yellow flashes. What are you thinking? In the zone.
Well, once you get into stage, so you got the first white lights on, it's okay. You've got a couple of crewmen with you that are going to do your motor up or put you on fat or thin or whatever they're going to do. So they're with you, and then once the light's on, they do their job. You're there on your own. The only thing there is the other rider in the other lane that's going through the same process and the open track in front of you. You know when they've gone, you then sneak into the next white bulb, so you're in full stage. You're then in the hands of the starter. You don't quite know when he's going to do it. So you concentrate 100% on the first yellow because it's no good waiting for green because you'll get no reaction time. And then you're literally about to step off a cliff in anticipation. So it's actually a very peaceful moment. I don't mind it at all because it's the time when you're going to be tested in not only riding but you know your mechanical ability and whether the guys have put the right tune in it. So you're sort of a little bit apprehensive in the sense that you know when you're going to hit full throttle to trigger all the timers. It's either going to go or smoke the tyre. And when they go, there's nothing like it. The acceleration and the power is just, there's nothing out there. They're amazing. Really a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much, guys. It has been a lot of fun. Thank you for inviting us in this Brisbane, Australia-based shop. The whole Nitro Voodoo team, you guys are awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Anything you'd like to add here before we leave?
Thanks for coming out, Jack. We really appreciate it. It's been great meeting in person. You know, many years of communicating over the net and the phone, but yeah, thanks for coming out, mate. You do a great job for the whole sport. Well done. Likewise.
Thanks a lot, guys. Let's see if we can leave with a little number one for Chris Matheson. Can we get it? There we go. 6th number one coming. Good luck. And the 6th number one came indeed with this remarkable comeback. Congratulations to Chris Matheson and the team. I hope you have enjoyed this tour. We want to say thank you to the entire Nitro Voodoo squad for opening up their shop and giving us remarkable inside access. Really, I want to tip my cap to Chris Matheson too, because the courage and audacity it takes to come back from such a devastating crash like he did is pretty astounding. Look for more great things to come out of this motorcycle. Chris Matheson is definitely headed for a 5-second run. It will only be a matter of time. You know he loves motorcycles based on this incredible collection that he has, not just of motorcycles, but also race bikes. Doug Vansel's body work, Jimmy the Hawk Brantley's body work. His shop was truly a museum. It was so fulfilling getting an opportunity to finally get over there to Brisbane, Australia and see everything he had to offer. I got to talk to Doug Vansel at the NHRA race in Bristol, and I told Doug, I saw your old classic bodywork. I think it brought a tear to Doug's eye. And I know this right here would bring a tear to Jimmy the Hulk Brantley's eye. It shows you how much respect Chris has for the individuals that he purchased motorcycles off of to not wrap that bodywork or repaint that bodywork. One thing is for sure, Chris has a ton of toys, a ton of talent, and a ton of mechanical know-how. Big things coming from Chris Matheson. Guys, I also invite you to please take a look at our other videos. We have Chris Matheson in action with Australia's quickest ever motorcycle run at 6:03. And we also have many different pit updates and inside features on the motorcycle itself. Look at that picture. That was when Chris got a little out of shape and went right next to his competitor. And isn't it unbelievable to think that this journey for Matheson started on a Suki Hayabusa, much in the same way that it started for Jimmy the Hulk Brantley. How do you go from a Suki Hayabusa to a Top Fuel Nitro methane bike? There must be something to that with these two accomplished riders getting it done. Damage from the wheel after that devastating crash. Again, we give Chris all the credit in the world for coming back and returning to the sport that he loves. Hope to see him over in the United States real soon as he continues to try to pursue history now with the Harley Davidson over in Australia against tough customers like Les Holden and Jay Upton. All of those competitors, like I said, you can learn more about here on the Cycle Drag channel. And what do you think about the motor that Chris has developed on his own? We got to get Larry Spider-Man McBride's thoughts on this, because it sounds like there's a huge durability issue there. He's really been able to get these motors to last. And we got to tell Chris to bring out the NASCAR at least once. Can't wait to see it, guys. Let us know where you're watching from, please. Any feedback or comments you may have on Chris's awesome shop, any questions you may have, fire away with them, and we'll try to get them answered just the best that we possibly can. But it truly was a thrill and a privilege to interview the speed freak, the legend, Mr. Chris Matheson. It was also quite a thrill to see the jackhammer up close. It's been since the IHRA days that I've seen the Doug Vansel motorcycle. Same feeling that I got from seeing Jimmy Brantley's bike. Two awesome pieces of machinery. It was really cool to be up close. Look for some possible record performances coming from this Nitro Harley over in Australia. Chris means business. Chris has certainly broken his share of parts as well. How crazy is that? The old adage, nitro is not your friend, comes to mind, and you can see why. A lot of attrition and a lot of cubic dollars it takes to keep these motorcycles running. We tip our cap to anybody who can make it happen. It takes a lot of personal funds or sponsorship money to continue on in such a grueling and unforgiving sport. Also want to say thanks to the leather manufacturers for saving Chris's life. Certainly happy that we have this wonderful man still around. Guys, thanks for subscribing to Cycle Drag on YouTube. Make sure you like cycledrag.com on Facebook. Plenty more coming.